Hey guys, welcome back to Rather Be Visin. My name is Sam, and today we're taking a look at how aggregations work with calculations. So in a previous video, we ran through what aggregation actually means and what to keep in mind when working with data. And now we're going to have a look at how it affects calculated fields when creating them. So let's hop straight into Tableau and have a look at how this all works. So here we are in Tableau. I've got an unaggregated view here where I'm right down to my order ID and product name level. So all of these values are at the same level that they are in my data set. And I've got my sales and my profit, and I am putting them through as a sum so that when I roll this up, they're still going to be coming through correctly. Now, when we start making a calculated field, you know that you just type out what field you want and what you want to happen. So for instance, I've got a profit ratio field here, and if I edit that, we can see that I'm doing the sum of profit divided by the sum of sales. Now, what happens if we don't sum within the calculated field? Well, I've got one here that is unaggregated where I've just done profit divided by sales. So this is how you would type it out. Maybe if you were using Excel, I just want to take my profit value and I want to divide that by my sales value to give me the percentage. So if I bring that into my view, we've got this unaggregated measure here, and it's given me a value of 12.1% for this first order. If I bring in my profit ratio where I've aggregated the figures within the calculation, you can see that's given me the same value. If I just extend out this percentage to one decimal place, you can see that these are both the same. You can see my profit ratio, when I bring it into the view here, says ag, so it let me know that it's already aggregated within the calculation itself, so I can't carry out an aggregation when it's in the view. So we can see that when we do our £28 divided by our £229, we get the 12.1%. And so that's working fine at the row level. Now, if I was to take out my product name and take out my order ID, so now I'm rolling this up to just have a look at my category and subcategory, we can see that my sales value of 363, my profit value of 56k gives me a profit ratio of 15.5%, but my unaggregated one is giving me a value of 5,975%, which is suggesting that we are paying people to take these products off of our hands. But we can see that what our unaggregated view is doing here, calculated field, is still summing. So it's a similar issue to what we had with our discount, where it's adding up those percentages. And because each row will have its own profit ratio, when we add those up, it's given us the wrong value. So when working with data and you know you're going to be aggregating it up, or you're going to be having a look at a higher level, it's always good to make sure that you do that aggregation within the calculated field itself, because this profit ratio that we've already aggregated will be correct regardless of what level of detail we have within the view. So if we have category on its own, it will be right. If we have category and subcategory, it will be right. If we do go right down to the row level, it will still be right, because what it will be doing when we have our order ID and our product name within the view, it's still doing that same calculation. So even though it's just working on this one row, it's still taking the sum of sales, which is 229, and the sum of profit, which is 28, taking profit off of sales and giving us that 12.1%. Now, one thing that often trips people up is when they are writing a calculated field and they either don't get the aggregation correct within the calculated field, or they try and aggregate a field that is already aggregated. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So if I'm going to create a calculated field here, and I'm going to call this furniture profit ratio, and I'm going to say if my category equals furniture, then I want to pull through the sum of my profit ratio. End. Now we can see calculation contains errors, and we can see the argument to sum an aggregate function is already an aggregation and cannot be further aggregated. And that's because we pulled in our profit ratio field, which is already aggregated. So that sum is already happening within that field itself, so we can't re-sum it. So now if I take that out, we can see that again, we're getting our calculation contains errors. And here we can see that we cannot mix aggregate and non-aggregate comparisons or results in if expressions. And that's because while our profit ratio field is aggregated, our category field is not aggregated. And so what we need to do is aggregate our category field. Now, because our category field just contains either furniture, office supplies, or technology, we can wrap this in a max and it's always going to pull through the correct value. So if we had 10 rows that all said furniture and we aggregated them up and we said we want to pull through the largest value, it's always going to pull through furniture. So if we wrap our category in a max, we've now see that the calculation is valid. So we've got our category is aggregated and our profit ratio is already aggregated. So we click apply on this and then OK, and we bring that into the view and we make sure that we've got the formatting right. We can see that we are getting the same value here. So our profit ratio is that 15.5%. So when you're working with aggregations within your calculated fields, it's a bit like algebra where you try and work out what the value of x is and you have to make sure that your calculation is balanced on both sides. Make sure that all of your fields are either aggregated or not aggregated. So the other way that this would work is if we had our profit, if we bring in profit without aggregating it, we're going to get that same error. So cannot mix those aggregate and non-aggregate things. So if we wrap our profit in a sum and then click apply, we'll see that these values change. Because I formatted that as a percent, they look a bit wacky, but we can change that to currency. And now we can see we've got the same value for our profit. So that's how you use aggregations within calculated fields. And the golden rule is to make sure that all of your fields are either aggregated or de-aggregated when making your fields. And it's also important to keep in mind exactly the level you're going to be looking at. And don't be doing a row calculation when you maybe need to make sure that it's all aggregated. Otherwise, you'll end up with the 6,000% profit ratio. So hopefully that was useful and hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into using aggregations within calculations. If you did find it useful, please do let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers for watching.